Hey everyone, welcome back from your fall break. I hope you had a really good, relaxing break. I know I did. I really enjoyed it. So we're picking back up with Unit 3. We don't have very much left in Unit 3 actually, so we're going to spend today, Wednesday, and Thursday finishing up Unit 3, and then we are going to take Part 2 of the Unit 3 test on Friday. So make sure you're ready for that on Friday. If you did not take Part 1 the Friday before we left for fall break, you need to email me immediately because you're going to have a 0 for Part 1, and that is going to kill your test score. I'm going to average Part 1 and Part 2 together. So make sure you have taken Part 1. You need to email me if you haven't so I can unlock it for you. Okay, so let's go on over to Canvas today and see what we have. We're going to go to our modules page. Make sure you do your attendance check-in. Very, very important. And then let's scroll down to the bottom of the page because that's what we do. So Tuesday. So we do have one journal slide we're going to put in our journal today. So you may want to pause the video here. Make sure that you are opening up your blue journal. Everything that we put in our journal is going to go into the blue one because that's the second quarter, the second 9 weeks. So let's go grab that journal slide. So remember, your journal is a major grade every 9 weeks. And last 9 weeks, I gave you guys a little grace and I gave you one to look at to kind of compare yours to as an example, but I'm not going to do that this 9 weeks. So if you don't have the notes ready and filled in as you go, you're going to have to go back the night before we grade and you're going to have a lot of stuff to fill in. Let me just say that. So make sure you're filling this in as we go. So right now is a good time to pause the video, get your journal open, then come back over and copy this slide because I fill in everything in the notes in my videos. So if you're watching the videos, you're following along with me, then this journal grade should be an easy 100 for you. Okay, so I don't need this one anymore. I've already copied that one, so now I have that slide copied over into my journal. So what are we going to call this in our table of contents here? So this is Unit 3. This is Lesson 4. And we're going to call this one Graphing Linear Inequalities. And we are going to link that to, let's see, that's slide 7. So let me highlight this, go up here to link. Slides in this presentation, and we're going to do slide 7. Apply. Here we go. So now I can click here and it'll take me straight to that slide, which is nice. Okay, so graphing linear inequalities. So I'm giving you some steps basically. If you follow these steps here on the side, so there's 4 steps, inequalities are not that hard to graph. They're similar to lines, you just have a couple of extra steps. Same thing as when we were solving inequalities. Remember I said it's the same way as solving an equation, you just have an extra step at the end. Well, same thing here when you're graphing. It's similar. And Desmos will graph lines for you, but it will not graph inequalities. It's not going to help you with those. But like I said, it's similar to graphing lines. So I'm going to kind of give you some hints and some tips on how we can make this a little bit easier. And we can still use Desmos to help us out. So the first thing you need to do is make sure your inequality is in the form y equals mx plus b. That's super important for inequalities. There are some key things we're going to be looking for, and we're not going to be able to look for them unless our inequality is in the form where y is on one side by itself. That's what's important. We need this solved for y. So we're looking here. We have 2x minus 3y is less than 12. Y is not by itself on one side. It is not isolated on one side of the inequality symbol. So we are going to have to solve this. So I'm going to pause the video for just a second. I'm going to pull this up on my iPad so that I can write this out. So what you need to do is find a piece of scratch paper right now, and you're going to write this inequality on your scratch paper. Okay, so like I said, make sure you have your scratch paper. I'm back, by the way. And write this on your scratch paper. And what you're going to do is after we rearrange this equation, we're going to solve it so that y is on one side by itself. I want you to take a picture of your scratch paper and you're going to put that picture right here. So I'm going to hop on over to my iPad, bring that up now. Here we go. Here's my iPad. So remember, anytime we're solving, the first thing we do is we draw that line. That's important. So we want the y term by itself on one side. So in order to get it by itself, well, I always need to add or subtract my x term first. So I see I have positive 2x's sitting over here. So this is positive 2x's, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is subtract 2x's. And the reason I subtract 2x's is because 2 minus 2 becomes 0. And that's what I want. So now I'm only left with negative 3y's. I'm going to bring down my symbol. And I look on the other side and I have, well, 12 minus 2x. 12 minus 2x, those are not like terms. So I'm always just going to write them down. And remember, it doesn't matter which order you write them down in. I'm going to put my x term first. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here. And I say, well, what number is sitting in front of y? Well, it's negative 3. So that's the number I'm going to divide everything by. Okay, so negative 3 divided by negative 3, well, that divides out to be 1. So I'm left with y. Now I'm going to simplify this other side over here. I have negative 2 divided by negative 3. Well, negative divided by negative is a positive, and I'm going to leave it as the fraction 2/3. I'm going to bring down my x. 12 divided by negative 3. Well, I know 12 divided by 3 is a 4, and then positive divided by a negative is a negative. Now I'm going to look at my symbol. So remember that one step, the thing you have to remember is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, which we did on both sides, we divided by negative 3, we have to come over here now and we have to flip our symbol. Super, super, super important. So y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. So that's what we have when we have solved this equation for y. So now what I'm going to do so that we can actually look at this really quick is, let me see if I can get it to bring this up here. It's not gonna let me bring it on top of this. Okay, well that's okay. We're gonna flip back and forth and remember this. So y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. See if I can minimize that. I'm gonna pause my video again. I'm gonna see if I can get this over here so we don't have to flip between this. Okay, so now I have the picture in here of the work that we did, so we don't have to go back and forth. So before we move on, let's review a little bit, and that is step number 2. You need to look and you just say, okay, so am I going to have a solid line or am I going to have a broken line? So remember, and here's a good place to review this, over here in Canvas, if you go to the poster wall in Canvas, oh, it's not going to let me see it. Let me see if it'll let me do it here we go. Here, I have put the inequality symbols, and if they have a broken line, open circle, solid line, closed circle. So this will be very, very helpful. So if you're in Canvas, you can go over to the poster wall anytime you need to, and you can review this, okay? So remember, if your symbol has a line under it, it's a solid line. If there's no line under your symbol, it's a broken line. Same thing, if no line, open circle. So it means you could include the points on the line if it's equal to, but if you don't have the equal to underneath it, we don't include the points on the line, so we leave it as a broken line. So let's refresh ourselves in over here. So if it's a solid line, we know it would be one of our symbols, and we're going to click and drag these symbols. It's going to have to be a symbol that has a line under it. But if it's a broken line, remember your line won't have the line under it. So I like to think if I see a solid line under my symbol, I have a solid line. If I have a broken line, no line under my symbol, it's going to be a broken line. Okay, so now we need to look and see what our symbol is. Well, we have greater than, no line. So I know I am looking for a graph that's going to have a broken line. My graph, now look at our graph options down here. See, this is what I mean. Our graph, the one that's correct, is going to have a broken line. It can't be a solid line. So boom, look, we can already eliminate 2 of our graphs. It can't be these 2 because they have solid lines. We know our graph has to have a broken line because our symbol does not have a line under it. So is it going to be shaded above or below? So notice all of our lines are the same here. The only thing that's different is if it's a broken line or shaded above and below. So this is the line, the equation, y equals 2/3 x minus 4. And you can use Desmos to help you get that. But most of the time, if we can figure out, does it have a solid line or a broken line? Is it shaded above or below? then we've got it. We can get it figured out. So now we need to decide, well, is it shaded above or below? Well, here's how you tell. So our equation, because we have y, remember now all this depends that y has to be on a side by itself. You can't look at your symbol. You can't decide if it's shaded above or below until y is by itself. That's why we solved first. Well, y is on one side by himself, and I see that it's greater than. So you need to think naturally in your mind. If you hear greater than, do you think above or below? If you see less than, do you think above or below? Hopefully, if you see greater than or equal to, hopefully you think naturally, oh, above. I would think above. And if you see less than or equal to or less than, you would naturally think, oh, that's below. And that's how you can think of it. So I know that I have to have a line that has a slope of 2/3 crossing the y-axis at -4. Because remember, this is our b value. This is our y-intercept. All of these are crossing at -4. Now, apparently we're counting by 2's here. So you have to be careful. So 2, 4. The only thing that's different about these is some of them are solid lines, some of them are broken lines. Well, we already said, we know ours has to have a broken line, so it can't be these two right here with the solid lines. We said that we have to have, our symbol is greater than, so would we shade above or below? Oh, because it's greater than, it's going to have to be shaded above. So we need one with a broken line that's shaded above the line. Do you see there's only one option here? It's right here. This is the one. We haven't even identified our slope and our y-intercept yet. And that's why I put these things over here to help us out. So is it a solid or a dashed line? Ours. Well, we said ours is going to have to be dashed. We said it's going to have to be shaded above. No doubts. So this has to be our graph right here. This is the one. Now, what is our slope? We can type here and type in our slope. Well, we know our slope has to be what's sitting in front of x, right? So that's 2/3. And what's our y-intercept? Oh, well, it's -4. So if some of your lines are different, all of these are the same line. It's in the same position on the graph. Then you could use your y-intercept and your slope to help you figure out which one was graphed correctly. But most of the time, I'm testing you on, do you know if it's supposed to be shaded above or below, solid or broken line? If you can figure out those two things, solid, broken line, shaded above or below, you can graph these most of the time, 99% of the time. Now, the other question we want to consider is, which of the points are solutions to the set the inequality above? So in order for it to be a solution to the inequality, which means, for instance, look at the point 0, 0. That's x, y. An x value of 0, a y value of 0. So that means if everywhere there's a y, I put in the value 0. And everywhere there's an x, I put in the value of 0. And I solved this, simplified it out. Well, I would have 0 greater than 2/3 times 0 minus 4. I would get a true statement. So in order for you to get a true statement, when you sub in those values for x and y, that's what your points are. They're solutions on a line as well. They're solutions on the line. Then it has to be in the shaded area. Remember, it can be on the solid line or shaded area. But if it's a broken line, remember, we don't include it. So let's look here. Which of these points are part of the solution? We know this is our graph. This is what we're looking at. So where is 0, 0? Well, that's the origin right here. So is the origin in the shaded area? Oh, yeah, it is. So this point right here is a solution set. It's a point that is a solution for this inequality. Those x and y values would make this statement true. Okay, well, what about -4, -2? Well, let's go find it. So apparently, I think we're counting by 2's. -2, -4, -2, -2 is right there. We could be counting by 1, so we're really not sure. So if you're counting, it will be clearly marked. These graphs are not as clearly marked as I think they should be. But the only reason I say we're counting by 2's is because I know the y-intercept is -4, so we must be counting by 2's. I don't really like these graphs, and I may actually change them. Yours may look different. But for right now, let's just count by 1. So if you go over -4, -1, 2, 3, 4, and you go down -2, is that in the solution set? Yes, because it's in the shaded area. That's what you're looking for. Now, what about 4, comma, negative 2? So positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, comma, negative 2. Well, that's over here in this part, right? So is that going to be in the shaded area? No, that point's not. So the first and second one are. The third point is not in the shaded area because it's going to be over here at 4 and down, negative 2. So no, it's not going to be in the shaded area. So that one is not a solution set to the inequality. Okay, so that's basically what it means. If it's in the shaded area, it is a solution. If it's not in the shaded area, it's not a solution. So it has to be in the shaded area to be a solution. Or it can be on the solid line. Or if it's on the broken line, it's not included because it's not equal to all the points on the line. Okay, so that's kind of a basic rundown of how we do this. The most important thing is going to be getting it where y is on one side of your inequality, because then you can easily identify, is it solid or broken? Is it shaded above or below? Okay, so now what we want to do is, let me go back to home. Let me go into student view again so we can access our, oh goodness, here I'm on the wrong one. Oh, I've jumped over to the wrong thing. Hang on just a second. Let me pause the video again. Okay, now I'm on the right one. So we're going to practice this graphing. So you're going to click here. And it's going to open up Cami. It's going to be a Cami assignment. And remember, you can always zoom in at the top up here by clicking this plus or minus. So that's going to be really helpful for this. You're going to need to zoom in pretty far to graph. So the first thing you need to do is look, and I would leave your notes open so that you can follow the steps. So step 1 is rearrange it so that it's in slope-intercept form. Then you're going to determine if it's a solid or broken line. So look at number 1. It is not in the form where y is on one side by itself. Okay, so this one needs to be solved. So I'm going to solve this one with you. Let me grab a color here. I think I'll do purple. Okay, so you can actually write on here. This is what I want you to do. I want you to write on here. I know it's not going to be the prettiest, it's not going to be the easiest, but this is the best way I can give you a piece of paper and have you graph on it, is using Cami, because I don't know that you have a printer at home, so I can't actually ask you to print something out. So this one's kind of difficult. So this is just do the best you can with the Cami. I know it's not going to be perfect. So we want our y term by itself. Now see, I have negative y over here. That's okay. I want that by itself, so I need to cancel out the x. I have one x sitting over here. So remember, there's really a 1 in front of this x. So if it's positive 1, to cancel it out, I would need to subtract 1x on both sides. So I'm going to subtract x. Okay. So when I do that, well, x minus x is 0. So I'm left with negative y. I'm going to bring down my symbol. And then I'm just going to write this other side down, 3 minus x, because those are not like terms. I can't add those together. So now I see in front of y, I have negative. Well, negative what? Well, remember, that's really just negative 1. So I need to divide everything by negative 1. Okay. Now, negative 1 divided by negative 1 becomes positive 1. That's what I wanted. So now I just have positive 1y. Now, 3 divided by negative 1, well, that's going to change the sign to now negative 3. And negative x divided by negative 1 is now positive x. Okay, so I know that this is going to be a line that has a slope of, well, what's sitting in front of x? 1. And I also know that the y-intercept is going to be negative 3. So because we divided by what number over here? What did we divide by? Negatives. We have to remember to flip our inequality symbol. That's going to be the big step that you need to remember. Now, to help you get the picture of the line, let's first come over here and let's ask ourselves, is it going to be shaded, is it going to be a solid or a broken line? So look at your symbol. There's no line under my symbol, so I know, I'm going to type this, it'll be faster. I know I'm going to have to use a broken line. Now I want you to write this on each one. And is it going to be shaded above or below? Well, it's greater than, so it's going to have to be shaded above. So I know I'm going to shade above. Now, how do I get the picture of the line? Well, the easiest thing for you to do is, remember, you can go over to Canvas and you can always get to Desmos this way. Clicking on that link on the side. So go over to Desmos, and it's not going to graph this inequality, y greater than, and I'll show you. If you go to type it in, you come down here, here's your inequality symbol. It's not going to graph it. It's going to tell you that inequalities, so we have -3 plus x. -3 plus x. Y is greater than -3 plus x. Whoops. It's going to tell you it's disabled. It's not going to plot inequalities. So what you can do is just replace your inequality symbol with an equal sign. That will give you the line. That will give you 2 good points. So I see I have points 0, -3, and I have the point 3, 0. So let's plot those. Let's plot those 2 points and let's connect them with our line over here. So I have 0. Oh, I need my drawing tool now. I have 0, 1, 2, 3, -3. There's 1 point that I'm going to plot right there. Okay. The next one I need to plot is 3, 0. So you can use Desmos, 1, 2, 3, 0. You can use Desmos to help you get the line. Now, I know this is not going to be perfect, but we're going to connect these points and draw this line the best we can. Now, what did we say we needed to use? A broken or a solid line? We said we need to use a broken line because it is not equal to. We don't have the equal to. So we're going to just connect our line here the best we can. I know it's not going to be perfect. That's okay. We get the point. And we're going to always put arrows at the end. Make sure you always put arrows at the end of your line. That's important. So there's my line. And I got that by using Desmos. Remember, we can't trust Desmos because it's always going to give us a solid line. So we can't, because we put the equal sign in. So you can't trust that. When you go to graph it, make sure you look at your symbol and the notes you made. We need to graph this with a broken line. Now we need to shade above this line right here. That's what we said, because it's greater than, we're going to shade above. So we're actually going to shade all of this here. And it does not have to be super colored in gray. There, I've just graphed that inequality. Okay. Now, I think I want to, let me see if I can, I just wrote over my thing there, here. And I don't care how you shade it. It doesn't have to be colored in perfectly. I just need to know which side you're shading. So we're shading above our line. This is above our line up here. That is that one graphed right there. So some of these, let me zoom out a little bit. You are going to have to solve them before you can graph them. But now look at number 2. Oh, look, y is already by itself. So here's what I would do with number 2. We have y greater than or equal to 2/3 x plus 3. Well, I would come over here to Desmos, and I would first type in with an equal sign. That's going to give you your 2 points and allow you to connect that line. Then come over here, draw those points. Remember, before you actually connect the points, decide you need to connect them with a solid or a broken line. Well, there's a line under this symbol, so this one you're going to need to connect with a solid line. And do you shade above or below? Well, remember, because y is already by itself on one side, we can see this is greater than, so this one we're going to shade, oh my goodness, I can't type. Shade above. So you can go ahead with your 2 points now. Well, let's see, we have -4.5 and 0. So that would be over here. So -1, 2, 3, 4, about in the middle there. Let me grab my drawing tool. About right here. -4.5. And what's my other point? 0, 3. So I would go, stay at 0 and go up 1, 2, 3. So that is my y-intercept, 3. And look, of course, that's my y-intercept. It's right here, 3. Just like this one told me y-intercept was going to be -3, and it is. It's down here at -3. So now I need to connect these with a solid line. So I'm going to connect them as best I can. I know it's not going to be perfect on here with a solid line. I know your Chromebooks are even more difficult to work with. So there it is, connected with a solid line. And then do we shade above or below the line? Well, we said because it's greater than, we're going to shade above. So this is a graph of this inequality right here. All this area would be shaded. So that means all of these points on this line and in this shaded area, well, they are solutions. I can pick any point over here and it would make this statement true if I plugged in those values for x and y. Over here, I can pick any point in the shaded area, but I can't pick any point that's actually on this line. For instance, if I pick this point right here, 0, -3, and I plugged in 0 for the x and -3 for y, it would not be a true statement. It's not going to make the statement true. So it would not be a solution. So, but for this one, I could pick any point on this line because it is solid line. So that's why the equal to and the not equal to becomes really important. Okay. I know this video is kind of long, but I know inequalities can be kind of tricky to graph. So I wanted to take some time and kind of go over them and work several examples with you. So that only leaves you 6 to work on your own. So like I say, the easiest thing for you to do first is going to be graph, solve it for y first. You're going to have to get it by y all by itself. Don't forget to flip your symbol if you divide or multiply by a negative number on both sides. Then go over to Desmos and let it give you the line. Just substitute in an equal sign so that it will give you the line so you can get your 2 points and then connect them with either your solid or your broken line. Be sure to check that and then just shade above or below. All right, so if you follow the steps that I just went through on those 3 examples, hopefully that will help you. If you're confused or you need help on this, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to give you some help.